What's up? What's up? What's up? Back with another ranking video. Today we're going to be going through all of the Bloodborne bosses. I'm going to be going through the base game and the DLC. I'm not including the Chalice dungeons because at this point I've played Bloodborne countless times. I've played through the base game, obviously, and the DLC, but seldom do I bother with the Chalice dungeons because I just find them boring. I only did it the once really to just get the to get the platinum trophy. But anyway, I'm talking absolute. I was going to try and keep it clean. Anyway, chuff that. We're going to get straight into it. These are in alphabetical order by the looks of it. I didn't create this tier list myself. This is just one that I found online, but we're going to go through it. It's going to serve our purposes. Starting out with Amygdala, of course, in the Nightmare Frontier. This is not one of my favourite bosses by any means. It's not a particularly difficult one. The camera is your biggest enemy, I find, on this one when it does the massive jumps and, it took me a little while to get the mechanics of this one. You have you have to hit the arm, and you can never quite hit him in the head unless you've got certain weapons. And then it took me a little while. It took me a little while to get to grips with it, but once I did, it's kind of it's not a particularly exciting boss. I'm putting Amygdala in C tier. Blood-Starved Beast. Now. So what with this? Blood-Starved Beast, this would be an Old Yarnum, right? The church. I can't remember the name of the church, but I should do. But this one took me quite a few goes on my very first playthrough of the game. But on subsequent playthroughs, I actually find it kind of easy. But it is kind of a pleasurable boss, certainly more so than Amygdala. There does feel like a bit of a dance to this one, if you will. It's very easy if you have certain strats. You can use the pungies, what are they called, the pungent thingy, whatever. You can chuck them in. They're like the alluring skulls. And Blood-Starved Beast, I find, is actually quite a fun boss to play against. I suppose with a lot of these, once you've learned how to play against them, none of them are that hard, I suppose, to a certain extent. But I'm going to put Blood-Starved Beast in B tier. A pleasurable boss to fight. Celestial Emissary. What's this? This is in the Upper Cathedral Ward, right? Up in the clock tower. I mean, let's not muck around. Celestial Emissary goes in D tier. It's just a boring boss. There's not much to it. I have died to the Celestial Emissary before, I'm embarrassed to say. Back in the day when I really was terrible at the game. But it really is just a gimmicky boss. As you all know, you've got what they called the little alien chaps. You can tell I'm an expert at Bloodborne, running around everywhere, and you've got to pinpoint the one that's actually there. And it's easy to pinpoint. It's the one backing away. You can get about half its health down before it erupts into the big guy, and then it's a boring boss. It really is. Cleric Beast is up next. I don't think I have. Maybe I've died a few times to Cleric Beast, but I do remember the first time I played Bloodborne. I beat Cleric Beast first time, and I didn't find it that difficult. I've died to it since, but more through my stupidity than anything else. But it is kind of a fun boss. It's the introduction boss, well, unless of course you go straight to Father Gascoigne. But it is, it can be quite aggressive. It does teach you the mechanics of the game in many ways. You do have to be aggressive. When you've gone from Dark Souls to playing Bloodborne, there is a different way to play it. You do have to, you have to learn the parry mechanic more so than any other Souls game. And yeah, you have to be aggressive in this game. Dark Souls, you can kind of hide back behind the shield. Bloodborne, you've got to get involved, and Cleric Beast kind of does teach you that actually quite earlier on. So I'm going to put him in B tier, but do I put him above the Blood-Starved Beast? I think I will. I've got a fondness for Cleric Beast. It's the first boss that you face, or at least it was in my case, and yeah, it was kind of a good introduction to the bosses. Dark Beast Pal. You discover this in what's the name of the unseen? Was it Yargul? Or no, is that might be H.P. Lovecraft I'm thinking of. You know where it is anyway. I don't need to explain where it is. Dark Beast Pal is It's a boss that has given me trouble in the past. I have died to Dark Beast Pile a lot, especially depending on the level that I am at when I go in to face it. You can, break the limbs, which does make things a little bit easier to get those viscerals in. It's not a boss I enjoy playing. There are certain bosses that you're kind of like, oh, I've got to fight against this one now. But I would say I'm going to put it at the back of B tier. Better than Amygdala for sure. Or is it at the bottom of... No. It's not a C tier boss at all. Yeah, Dark Beast Pearl is kind of cool. Ebriatus, daughter of Cosmos. Do I enjoy this boss? I'm not sure I do, I'm not sure I do. I kind of think Ebriatus is... I just find it a bit of a boring boss, to be honest with you. I'm sure a lot of people would have this a lot higher. I'm going to put it above Amygdala. Like I said, I'm sure there are people who just like, what the hell are you doing? I'm not a fan of Ebriatus. Alright? That's how it goes. Father Gascoigne, let's not muck about. We got our first S tier. Father Gascoigne is awesome. This was the first boss, well, the second boss that I played, but it was the first boss where I really was like, oh, okay, you've got to learn what you're doing. You got to get good, as they say. Of course, you got the first phase where you're fighting off against Father Gascoigne himself, much like you. He's a hunter, mimics a lot of your moves in many ways, and that he can parry with the shotgun, or the rifle, or whatever. Very, very aggressive boss. Doesn't give you much time to stuff. Then, of course, you got the second phase, which is a lot easier if you got the music box, which you pick up from his daughter, which you meet along the way. Tragic story there. Father Gascoigne is just an incredible boss. I always feel a sense of achievement when I get past him. Do you know what I mean? He's always one of those bosses when I'm like, oh, how's this one gonna go? Cleric Beast really doesn't bother me too much. I'm gonna beat Cleric Beast quite easily. Father Gascoigne, I've had plenty of playthroughs where I've got stuck on him pretty much straight away. But he's a good boss. And once you start learning his moves, he's again, there's a dance with Father Gascoigne. Fantastic boss. They nailed it with Father Gascoigne. Gehrman, the first hunter. You know what? I think this is going to have to be another S tier boss as well. I'd say, difficulty-wise, I probably like by the time you fight Gehrman, you're pretty, leveled up by that point, or at least you should be. Difficulty-wise, I wouldn't put him that much above Father Gascoigne. I can't say I've ever had necessarily a huge amount of trouble with Gehrman. He might have taken me a few goes on my first attempt, the first time I played it through. But, it wasn't one of those ones where I was really, I kept having to come back to beat the bastard. I'm going to put him behind Father Gascoigne. I suspect a lot of people might put him above. You can get in with a parry mechanic. There are plenty of times I've beaten him pretty easily. Yeah, I'm going to put him behind Father Gascoigne. Father Gascoigne was the first boss that really, like I said, when I played against him, I really felt like I'd actually achieved something in the game. So there you go. Next up, Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower. This is another S tier boss. But where does it go in S tier? Lady Maria is, yet again, another one that you dance with. Got quite a distinctive moveset. Again, you can parry her. She telegraphs her moves pretty well so that you can avoid them, although I get caught out by them all the fucking time. I said I wasn't going to swear. But I'm going to put Lady Maria... Yeah, I'll put her at the back of S tier. Back of S tier, yeah. Lawrence, the first vicar. So this is from the DLC. Well, so was Lady Maria, actually, I should have said. Fool. Lawrence, the first vicar. I guess much. I mean, it's basically a reskin of the cleric beast, but you also have a whole. I mean, the whole, the second phase of Lawrence where it rips itself in half and is just dancing around in lava. I find it quite a frustrating boss. I actually replayed this the DLC not so long ago. I actually got through Orphan of Kos pretty, I think it took me like 4 attempts. I'm not a great Bloodborne player, as you can probably tell by my descriptions of the bosses. I suck. But Lawrence, I don't know. It's usually one of those bosses where at the end of it, I just kind of think, well, at least I'm past that now. I don't really feel a sense of achievement from doing it. Maybe it's because I often, go and face him after Orphan of Kos, and that's such a big fight that you really feel like when you beat him, you really feel like you've done something. So maybe Lawrence just feels like a bit of a letdown after that. I'm going to put Lawrence at the back of B tier. Living Failures, D tier. I'll put them above Celestial Emissary, another DLC boss. They're just kind of boring. You can pretty much just go over, hit them a couple of times as soon as they start doing their attacks or getting the meteor attack going. You just run away and hide like a little bitch. But it's just a boring fight. It's not a particularly difficult one. I have found it frustrating. In my recent playthrough, I actually died more to the Living Failures than I did to Orphan of Kos, which is really quite embarrassing, and more than I did to Lady Maria, actually. But yeah, I think it's because it's one of those bosses I just don't really concentrate that much with, because I just find it kind of whatever. Ludwig has to go in S tier. In fact, I'm putting let's not muck about. I'm putting Ludwig straight to the top. I love fighting against Ludwig. He's a fantastic boss. Maybe it's just the cutscenes and everything that you get with it as well. The lore behind it. One of those ones at first, it can be a very, very frustrating boss to play, but once you learn how he moves, he's actually a joy to fight against. Yeah, Ludwig, Holy Blade. Top of S tier. Fantastic boss. Speaking of which, Martyr Ligarius, Canehurst, another incredible boss. I don't think quite S tier. This could be our first A tier boss. I'm feeling. Yeah, that feels right to me. Another one that you can parry sauce. Another one that you can parry quite easily. But another one that can be difficult. You're fighting him up on the roof. There's more than one occasion when I've been dancing around and ended up flying off the side of the roof when I've nearly got him to, when I'm down to the last 10th of his health bar. His AoE attack can be quite, can catch you out if you're not watching your stamina. And of course, you got his sword attack, which he puts right, and does all that. Just these little cool little bits that he's got. Man, I suck at explaining things. Yeah, good boss. I enjoy Martyr Ligarius is one of those bosses I get myself psyched up. I kind of enjoy fighting against him. Great boss. Murgo's Wet Nurse. This isn't a bad boss at all. This is one of those ones that I never really... I guess there are certain bosses that are going to be difficult to take on. Murgo's Wet Nurse has kind of always been one of those ones that I just kind of... I know it's like... I'll beat it pretty quickly, I'd imagine, and I normally do. It's not a bad boss necessarily. I'm going to put it at the top of C tier. Is that a bit low? No, I'll put it at the back of... No, maybe I'll put it above Lawrence, actually. And Dark Beast Pearl. Yeah, okay, that looks right to me. That looks right to me. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a particularly difficult boss, but I guess it's kind of fun fighting against Murgo's Wet Nurse. You know what I mean? Certain move sets, it's quite easy to predict the moves. Although having said that, I died to it a number of times on my last playthrough, so maybe I'm just full of shit. That's pretty much without doubt, I'd imagine. Next up, Mikolash, Host of the Nightmare. I'm going to put him in D tier straight away. I'll put him at the top of D tier. It's just kind of a gimmicky boss. You've it's just kind of a frustrating boss. You've got to do the, looping round the stairs and everything to get him into the side room. And then once he's in there, he's actually pretty easy to deal with. He can be annoying because he has that, what is it, a call beyond? Is it the attack he does that can one-shot you if you're not careful? Which can be a real son of a bitch, but it's just, it's not a particularly satisfying fight again. It's just one of those ones you just kind of, I've got to get past this bit. Yeah, not terrible. Moon Presence up next. The final boss, if you're going for is it the true ending? I'm not sure. Anyway, it's the one where you have to have all 3/3 of the umbilical cord to make, therefore, a full umbilical cord. I never thought of that. There you go. That's why I'm doing YouTube videos with scants of you. Moon Presence is another one of those bosses I've never really had any trouble beating. Gehrman I've died to a lot over the years that I've been playing the game. Again, not a particularly tough boss, Gehrman, but I've died. Moon Presence has seldom gave me much hassle. So I think I'll put it in, but it is kind of an enjoyable boss as well. I don't find it necessarily a bad boss. I guess it's let down somewhat by the fact that it's the end of the game as well, and you kind of, once you beat it, it's kind of like, okay, all right. I'll put it above Murgo's Wet Nurse, though. I'll put it in the middle of B tier. Orphan of Kos. S tier, without a shadow of a doubt. But where does it go on the S tier? That's what we're going to find out, obviously. Once you learn the moveset, an incredibly aggressive boss, doesn't let up at all. So stamina management is definitely part of the strategy to beating Orphan. You have to get round the back of the boss to get the son of a bitch. But it's an incredibly satisfying boss to beat in the end, Once again, my last playthrough, I fought against him 4 times. The first 3, I wasn't really paying attention. I was just kind of like, I think I went in there expecting him to beat me. And then on the 4th try, I nearly quit beforehand, and I went, nah, fuck it, let's just give it one more go. And I went in there with intent, paying attention to the moves and the fact that I'd learned them a bit more from the last 3, whatever. Once you know the moveset, once you know the dance, again, I keep coming up with this dance thing, I'm so goddamn learned. It's actually a very cool boss, and it's always one of those ones that I always feel good when I've won the battle. Always makes me feel like I've achieved something. I think I'm going to put him, it, her, whatever, in the middle of S tier. Yeah. Rom. It's not a bad boss. It's just kind of, you've got all the spiders around it that you've got to get rid of. It's just more, if you do die to it the first time, which I have done on plenty of occasion, I'm sorry to say, embarrassed to say, it's one of those ones where you have to, you have to go back again, and then you have to get rid of all the spiders, get rid of get the first 1/3 of his health down, get the next bunch of spiders, go again. It's just kind of a laborious one. I would put it above some of these others here. I'll put it at the top of C tier, maybe. Shadow of Yharnam. I actually quite enjoy this boss. I know a lot of people would have... I think a lot of people might have them quite low, but I actually quite enjoy this boss fight. It's kind of good. The fact that you're fighting 3. You have to kind of keep your wits about you. Normally have to focus on the one. Normally go for the fireball guy straight away, try and whittle him down, then move on to the second one, and then the third. I think Shadow of Yharnam, I'm going to put him in A tier. I do enjoy it more than any of the others in B. Again, maybe a lot of you are thinking, motherfucker, what are you doing? There I'm going with the curse words again, but that's how I roll, baby. It's my damn tier list, not yours. Subscribe. The One Reborn... Is this as low as C tier? Again, it's kind of a boring boss. It's got nods to, what's it called? From Demon Souls. Is it the Iron Giant, the Iron Knight or whatever? I can't remember. But either way, you've got the witches up on up on the walls firing at you, which you can, it's up to you whether you get rid of them or not. I normally go up there and get rid of them first, but the actual boss fight itself is it that much more? I think I'll put it at the top of C tier. Not much more satisfying than Rom, to be honest with you. So a lot of suggestive words in this one, aren't I? Vicar Amelia. I think Vicar Amelia goes in A tier as well. Really cool boss. Of course, this is the Grand Cathedral, is that right? And it's just... I did die to her a few times, actually. It's definitely a boss, if you're not careful, you can die to quite easily. However, another one that you dance with. You've got the limb damage that you can do to get the viscerals in. Got the numbing mist that you can use to stop her healing herself. Yeah, Vicar Amelia is a good boss. I'm going to put Vicar Amelia in middle of A tier. Great boss. This is a bit of a letdown, isn't it? We're finishing on the witch. Is it the Witch of Hemwick or the Witches of Hemwick? Is that suggesting that there's a single witch that splits into two? Or I always thought it was, the Witches of Hemwick. It's a bit of a boring boss, isn't it? Actually, well, no, hang on. Having said that, I do find it a bit better than some of the other bosses here. Do I, though? We'll put it in C tier. Just ahead of Amygdala. Amygdala just bores me. Should Witch of Hemwick go in D tier, really, though? I'm going to leave it there, but I'll let you decide. That's a bit of a letdown, isn't it? As a way to finish. I should have looked at that, really, and, changed that around a bit so that we could have gotten to some of the more interesting bosses to end on Witch of Hemwick. Subscribe,